You know, I didn't think the horror-themed episode would make me cry, but here we are. So, Amazing Digital Circus episode 3 just came out, and it hit #1 on trending. This show's popularity is truly unmatched. From the pilot being the #1 viewed indie animation pilot on YouTube, to it getting up to one of Netflix's most viewed shows recently. I recently made a trailer analysis video, and I said that what I wanted most for this episode was great character interaction and more depth on characters we've barely seen. And boy, did we get some amazing character depth on Zooble, Kinger, and even Kane. The first thing I want to touch on is the attention to detail. And I'm not just talking about the animation, though as per usual, Glitch knocked it out of the park. The episode starts with the gang having Pomni hold her breath to explore what happens to her, as each circus member has a different effect when doing this. And when Pomni mentions she feels like she'll die due to lack of oxygen, Kinger tells her,
"Try not thinking about it."
Later in the episode, Pomni and Kinger end up in hell, and the solution to getting through the Hall of Souls and back to the others is to not breathe. Pomni ends up getting nervous and she's bad at holding her breath, but Kinger says the same thing he said at the beginning of the episode.
How about we try not thinking about it?
I'm in love with how they tied a seemingly unimportant scene into the end of the adventure in such a meaningful way. The thing I was least excited for this episode was the horror. I'm a lot like Pomni in that regard. I hate horror movies, I hate gore, I hate horror stories, even jump scares freak me out. So all the horrific imagery in this episode was not my cup of tea. Your girl was clutching a squishmallow listening to the dead man ramble about hunting one of God's angels. And the thing possessing Pomni was also not fun for me to watch, like, But the fear factor being up in this episode was necessary for the development of Pomni and the characterization of Kinger. The real Kinger. There are 3 groups we follow in this episode. We'll start with the least important, that being Ragatha, Jax, and Gangle, who barely do anything in this episode. They get the easy path where they have tea with the wife of the dead man leaving clues for Pomni and Kinger, and Jax is somehow tied up by Ragatha off screen, which I would have loved to see, but with how good this episode was, I can live without it. The second group is Zooble and Kane. After Zooble dips on the adventure when Kane tried to tailor it to what he thinks they're interested in, Kane attempts to uncover why. But instead of actually trying to help them, he's just fishing for compliments and trying to force Zooble into enjoying the adventures when they clearly do not. Zooble revealing they hate themselves and the body they've found themselves in. This is a very real struggle that people have struggled with, and knowing these real problems can plague the members of the circus makes the plot more interesting to watch for me. With this episode being a more Kinger-focused episode, I feel like we're going to get more backstory and depth on Zooble in the future, with this episode just laying the groundwork for Zooble's struggles. Getting just a bit more on Kane is interesting. On one hand, he really does care about his guests, but his way of trying to help is forcing them on his adventures because, as he states, that's what he's good at. That is what he's programmed to do. And when said purpose is put into question, he starts to break down, in turn breaking the circus. Cartoon Universe has a lot more videos on theories about Kane and explains the situation a whole lot better than me, so I'd recommend checking out his channel. But I feel like we're going to learn a lot more about Kane as the show goes on, as he is the most advertised character for Digital Circus besides Pomni and Jax. The main duo for this episode was definitely Pomni and Kinger. I loved their interactions this episode. In my trailer analysis, I was really hoping she and Kinger would bond and he would act as a rock to help her get through this. And boy, did I get spoiled this episode. We see Kinger at the best he's ever been. Probably because we're seeing the real Kinger for the first time. He's respectful to and protective of Pomni in this episode, and kind of feels like a father/grandfather figure to her, something she really needs right now. We explore Kinger a bit more. We see his true self and why he seemingly goes from goofy insane to serious to lost his mind again. And it all has to do with darkness and how it reminds him of the last moment he spent with his wife before she was sent to the cellar. We don't know what exactly happened or the past they shared, and we probably never will unless Gooseworks tells us in a future internet post or episode. But seeing how that impacts Kinger and how he still moves forward is really impactful. And the speech he gives to Pomni.
I know how it can feel in this circus. Sometimes it all just feels pointless.
Yeah.
But it's not. Not if you have people who care about you. Good memories can do a lot. Hold on to them. And cherish the people around you. You never know when they'll be gone. In this world, the worst thing you can do is make someone think they're not wanted or loved.
Chills. Just chills. This is something Pomni needed. While we don't see more into who Pomni is, we see how she interacts with her surroundings. While she is more comfortable interacting with the members of the circus, she didn't really appreciate them too much until she had that moment with Kinger, and we see her grow. Last episode, she was providing comfort to someone, but this episode, she was the one getting comforted. And heaven knows she needs it. Pomni is shown to be empathetic, and I think she'll be the catalyst for the growth and backstories for the rest of the cast as she gets to know the digital circus cast more. I also love how as soon as she shares these moments with Kinger, the first thing she does is put his advice into action and goes to appreciate Ragathor for everything she's done for her. It shows Pomni is growing and capable of growth. I might make a video on the full scene between Pomni and Kinger in Hell at a later date, but I will say I love how their adventure ends. After a heartfelt conversation and some wise, comforting words Pomni needed to hear, they find a solution to the problem at hand, and with some encouragement from Kinger, Pomni takes his hand as the music swells. They take a deep breath and walk through the dark corridor as the lights of the soul dance around them beautifully. We see Kinger light up as he leads Pomni out of the darkness. It's such a beautiful cinematic scene, the music, the lighting, the dialogue leading up to it. Honestly, the last 5 minutes really carry the episode for me, and it makes me excited for future episodes. Also, Kinger with a shotgun is the most badass moment of the show, and Kinger is a boss.
Like a boss!
These are my thoughts on episode 3. I still think episode 2 is my favorite, but this episode is also really, really good. Let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comment section down below. This is Queen of Penguins saying peace out, and don't go through spooky doors that will eat you alive.